a formal job description where there are specific um, goals laid out when you were hired? That's what I normally see is like for the next year, these are the things, you know, we expect you to accomplish, or these are the things you should be working on, very concrete, very objective measures. And then in the year, we can say, well, you did this, or you didn't do that, or you did this well, or, you didn't. Some of these are just kind of nebulous. They're kind of hard to
They are.
wrap your arms around.
Some of them are pretty subjective.
Yeah,
It's easier if you have some kind of objective measures.
right.
But
I
to
don't-
answer your question, there was a contract kind of laid out some of the parameters of the hiring and such like that. Our code is very limited in what it says as far as the responsibility. I think there's one paragraph. But as far as laying out expectations, goals, and that kind of stuff, I would like to see that as a follow-up to this, but no, I didn't like it.
Yeah, because that gives something really concrete, objective to measure you by. I mean, I couldn't comment on a lot of these. I just have no idea how, in terms of strategic leadership and all of these are. And then what examples of that could you provide, or would someone be able to provide? You can't just say, well, you seem like you're, a good leader, or you do a good job. But, what's your basis for that determination?
Okay. No, I all my time in the military, the boss would come to me and say, here, write your report, write your evaluation. Yeah, your job. But no, I'm used to writing down kind of a list of topics, and I can certainly comply with that. Now, I have received some guidance from the board throughout the year. I had my first 30 days, we had a little session with the board, the 60-day, a third, and a 90-day. Got some feedback. One of the feedbacks that I remember specifically is about communication. Shortly after that, we started putting out the weekly staff reports and trying to emphasize better communication. But if there's other kind of objectives, yeah, I think that's
Right. If you don't get that feedback, then it's hard for you to know how to correct your performance. The issue around, one of the things I saw was around staff development and retaining quality employees. There's been a lot of turnover, but maybe that's appropriate turnover, and you can, give specific examples of that. I think that would help.
So on that same line of thought, if one of these two formats is something that you say that we agree in principle that we have some specific areas, I could address those areas during that self-evaluation as well. Put some specific examples to that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, a lot of what I do is not seen by the board of trustees because, we
Right.
twice a month, we have
Majority.
reports and so forth. But in the meantime, it's pretty much a daily grind to work through development, to work through staff development, to deal with absentees and turnover, capital projects, budgeting, everything that goes along with that title.
Okay. Any other comments?
I'm guessing this printed one is Winter Parks.
That one's from Winter Park. Yeah. And they've been using that one for a couple of years. The other one is, like I said, from Castle Pines. It's a little bit more, it's a bigger city, more progressive, different mindset. It's a home rule. So their objectives and their performance measures may not fit here.
This is Castle.
But a lot of what is in, there's a lot of overlap between the two of them. You know, one calls it strategic leadership, one calls it leadership.
I think Winter Parks looks good. That's this one, right?
No, that's kind of.
Yeah, I like Castle Pines then. Yeah, I like how it's broken down. I do agree with Lewis that setting some things specific to what your job description is would be really good.
And who is ultimately responsible for giving you your evaluation? Is it us or is it board? The board. Yeah, I mean, the problem with that is we don't really see, like you said, we don't really see that much of what you do. We see you a couple times a month or maybe, here or there, but in terms of the day-to-day performance, I wouldn't know.
I get that, but you will see more outcomes. Yeah, let's say staff time. And because that's a day-to-day and what we're doing here in these meetings is, you're setting policy and we're trying to execute that policy, bringing results to town. So, yeah, you'll see more of the outcomes of those objectives.
Well, I like winter parks better. Personally. And this is a lot of information on the other one, but it doesn't give you an opportunity to make any useful comments. I mean, barely, it does. I guess it says comments underneath.
This is
But-
pretty, this
Yeah.
Castle Pines one is kind of like what we used to do with Jeff. You guys remember that?
Yeah,
Yeah, and then Lou would gather them. Remember Lou?
Mhm.
That's how. I
Yeah, Lou Berger.
would gather them and then go through combine the scores and come back with, obviously your evaluation. So, we did used to go the town evaluations, but that stopped. Have we done that since
that's not for you.
Antoinette has been here? Have we?
We have done one and we actually did, I think it was a couple years ago, the staff did an evaluation of the town.
Is that what Jeff?
Yeah, I like the input from the staff. But I couldn't remember if it's been longer than 2 years. It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe 4 years ago.
So this could set a precedent for future evaluations and
Mhm.
policy for doing that. And how that's combined, whether that's trustee or utilize Rob, either way. Again, what I'm looking for is a collective voice and a collective evaluation.
Is there a formal job description and expectations of?
Yeah,
There is a job description.
yeah, I'm with Lewis. It'd be good to see what the job description is and what that way we have an idea of what to grade you on.
Right, what the expectation is of your performance and without that, I think it's hard to grade somebody.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of staff turnover. Which is, normal when a new manager comes in, you have a lot of staff turnover, so that's not unusual. But knowing that, and knowing what the staff thinks of you is a huge consideration for us to consider, right?
To be honest with you, I was gonna do that whether that you want to be part of the evaluation. And we talked, 2 weeks ago about setting something up like that.
Because that helps us. Because all what's the shame about being a trustee is 90% of the time you don't hear the complaints. You never hear the good of what someone does.
I try to let,
Well, it's not just you. I mean, just staff overall, right?
I try to tell us what the good staff do. We've got a great staff.
Yeah.
And they're doing a lot of great work.
Like I hear a complaint that's funny. People do the street sweeping. Why do they do the street and then the sidewalk and then the street and then the sidewalk? And I'm like, well, they're blowing the dirt into the off the street, onto the sidewalk, into the thing. And they're like, oh, that makes sense now. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense now. They think the sweeper sucks up everything.
Out of back.
Yeah, it's not bad. So that's not, it shouldn't be a judgment of your performance, but that's a complaint.
Unless I'm driving the sweeper.
Right. That's why I was pointing that out.
Yeah.
It's good to know what your job is. Make sure.
I'm open to whatever format you'd like to use. From experience though, first of all, we all need to agree on what that format is. My first job as a town administrator, they were all over the place. One trustee actually went out door to door to all the local businesses and asked, how many times is the town administrator taking me to lunch? And that was part of my evaluation. But I'm like, you didn't give me a budget to take everybody to lunch. I'm sorry, but
Yeah, that's not, I would expect.
So on this one, with the multiple boxes. If there's something, we're looking at it, we think, well, I have no idea. If we check no opinion, does that back out the total number of questions to make the appropriate evaluation? You know what I mean? So let's say if I only wanted to check 3 of the 5 boxes in the first section, but it doesn't give them a 0, how does that work for tabulating? the totals?
We should say unable to evaluate.
You would just give a summary.
no
drop
opinion.
if it's no opinion or not applicable,
Okay,
that just drops out of them.
and then they just go into that average. Okay, cool. Well, that was the option on this, then this would be okay. It's easy. Think about it.
I like the hybrid of the two.
Yeah.
That's what I-
This one,
Neither.
Yeah, neither one of them are
Neither.
great. But-
neither.
Like a hybrid of the two.
I would like more comments on all the different categories, and the Winter Park one does give you that option.
I like this one because it's more anonymous. When it check, it's hard to tell who's checking. You can tell by somebody's handwriting.
I mean, I think if you were to grade someone ineffective or inconsistent, you need to give an example of why you know, something concrete to say why you think they're ineffective.
I don't think
I mean,
it needs to be
just checking a box doesn't really tell you that much.
No, right, that's what I think a hybrid.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
And there are ones that if you check the high end or the low end, you have to, it mandates that you put a comment in there or an example. And then you could do it digitally, so you're not seeing handwriting, but also all those would tabulate and become a summary document. They're all data.
That's what I would prefer.
Mhm.
The only name associated would be Board of Trustees.
Total tabulated score.
Mhm.
Trustees.
And even the Castle Pines does give you a small space for comments if you look right underneath in blue there, very small.
I think Blue's is right on. I mean, if we say ineffective, we should be given examples.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that each one of these should have further comments after each.
Like when I evaluate my boss, if you hit either the high or the low, a box
I
pops
thought you
up.
were the boss.
No, I work for EXP now, so I have a boss, for the first time in my life, it's really weird. Anyway,
How's it going?
yeah, so 1 through 5, if you mark 1 or 5, then you have to give an explanation why you thought he was great or why you thought he was off. Right? If you pick in the middle, you don't have to give the explanation.
I like it.
Gone through this whole life without a boss, and now I have one, it's terrifying.
And who you working for?
Yeah,
Imagine.
I'm the
What's the
commercial real estate company. So I run their commercial division for Nebraska and all that.
Good on you.
Well,
Is that enough input? Do you want us to specifically send you more questions if they come up?
You
Or
know,
to-
we don't
or
have
to
to-
Rob?
we don't have to
Actually,
make a decision tonight. I just really
No,
wanted
that's
to
great.
talk about with a form like this, that gives you a checkbox and then an option to make comments, and we can expand the comments if we have to go with this kind of form. And we could get feedback about, you know, yeah, I've had a chance now to look these over. And I like this question, this one, this one, this one, this one. Get a consensus on that. I mean, we can build a form. In the meantime, Rob and I are going to continue to work on that 360 evaluation. And whatever you agree to, whatever questions on that, I will work on self-evaluation as well. And I'll be giving specific examples as well.
That's great.
Is that
Okay.
doable?
Yep, I think we should email in questions if we have questions and that we want to add to.
Right.
If we see something on here that we think should be on there.
You can email me, just don't email all or reply all, just send them
Yeah.
directly to me.
I think
Or if you-
I think we should send it to Rob.
Send it to Rob, that's better, you're right.
And
Well,
are
that
we
was-
thinking about digitally? Is it?
Yes. digital.
Your last comments are, so that's good.
Well, thank you for the time to go over that with me.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 30 minutes left. Can we do something, add 30 minutes into our workshop that you wanna?
Well, I can talk about subject that's planning commission wise, that's unique, different. Do you want to add that to this workshop? Can we add that to this?
I don't know.
I think legally without a,
It's not bad. It's not, it's just. It's with the new company taking over. They're finding a lot of, the way I use the term is holes in your boat, right? Little holes that pop out, might sink your boat. So the way they're interpreting our code and the way that we try to make the code back in 2017, 16, when it was, when we did the code revision, they're finding stuff differently, how we worded it, different than how they understand.
we've had a lot of conversations
No, it's great. This is,
over that and,
it's probably one of the best things we could have happen. Now we have a fresh eyes and expertise looking at our code. Now we can try to make the code better. So I see it as a real positive.
there's a planning commission meeting next week. There's 2 items on there, the coastal on Main and also the health center. And I have a meeting on Monday with them to kind of go over what they're gonna present, because I'm out next week and see them. Be honest with you, I told them that, you know what, you're professional planners, you've done this a lot. You know what you're doing. They're getting better educated with their code. We're still working out a few minor procedures, but it's getting a heck of a lot smoother.
Right.
I said, use that opportunity to show them what the professional planning organization can do in the planning commission meeting.
Right.
Everything from your staff report, your recommendations and so forth.
Yeah, because I mean, it's little things like the way we state our code is if it's 3 units or less, it's all administrative. You don't have to go to the board.
Right.
If it's 3 units or more, you have to go to the board. The way they interpret it is 3 means you go to the board, 2 means you don't. But when you read it, it says up to 3. Not 3 or more, or 3 or less, which is, it's just the verbiage, right? So, but it's a good catch. It hasn't caught anybody. Nobody's had problems with it, but it's something I was reading an email and it was in there and I'm like, oh, that's different than what our intentions is.
Well, those would be great things to be able to track with this new company and
Yeah,
start to
right.
catch those ones, what they cleaned up.
Well, I think it might be a great opportunity for the town to really speed up our process of how we do projects.
So that's been my objective, is to speed up that process and take away any kind of perception of if there's any kind of bias out there or not. Want to get uniform treatment to everybody. whether
Right.
it's Somebody just wants to build an ADU on their place or somebody putting in 500 homes. Want to make sure that the process works, the process is smooth, we're meeting our timelines, which we struggled with for various reasons over the past year and even before that. Planning Commission, both Julie and Ben's the senior planner at Baseline, are both going to be in attendance.
Yep.
for that meeting.
Yeah, Julie's very nice. I don't know if you had a chance to talk to Julie, but she's very nice, very educated. Seems to understand. I mean, she's read most of our code, understands quite a bit of it. So.
Are they gonna be there in person or?
Yes, in person.
Be interesting to go to.
So if you're here and you're on the planning commission, I would go reread your subdivision codes because they will be asking us questions at that meeting.
So what does it say about parking? Because this came up when I met with Barry and distillery folks about how multiple businesses count the same parking spots as their allowance or what a requirement. It seems like you're double, triple, quadruple counting the same parking spot with the same, like, your business and all these ones down that don't have
Square
parking.
footage, right?
Yeah, it's number of seats so a commercial building is based on the number of seats you have in the building,
Which is square footage.
which comes out to be square footage, but they forget that storage areas and square footage and there's kitchen in there. But with that, you have to remember the dishwasher, the prep cook, the cook, the waiters, they all drive their own cars. They don't usually take the bus. That's why we're trying to do more housing downtown, so you have less cars. The town in the past, from what my understanding is, we allow double booking on parking if you have residential and commercial either in the same area or the same complex. It's like with Katie's bar, Fisher's. her parking is allowed because they actually got parking from the vet. They have additional parking there, they have parking on the road, and then they're part of the HOA, which helps her parking out. And she has the street parking. I'm using you as an example because you're here. I don't
I
feel
mean, I
like
don't
there's
know any
time.
HOA parking that I have. I wish I had a parking spot.
Well, no, but it helped with your, in the beginning of when it happened, that parking helped with your business.
Oh, okay.
Because they leave, so during the lunch hours, dinner hours, most of the people that would be parking in those units are gone, so the town figured they could double use that parking. So it was kind of deal by deal, it's not necessarily in the code, but it was broken out by deal based on what you thought.
Well, it sounds like some
That
some
sounds-
places are grandfathered in.
Right.
But when you're deciding like that new development that's going in, that they're allowed to count street parking for some of their parking. And those places have already been, I guess, delegated or given to, 4 or 5 different businesses right there.
Mhm.
So you're basically you're counting that parking towards their parking allowance. It just seems like it's not a very effective way to allocate parking because you're,
Like, if you look
Mhm.
at Denver residents and their commercial, my understanding, I could have misread their code. But the way they did their parking is the people that live in the buildings either work below them or somewhere on the street, or they drive to their business. So between 8 AM and 5 PM, that parking is open parking. Because most likely the tenants aren't leaving their cars, they actually drive their cars to work. Then at night, the restaurants get to use the businesses that close at 5 o'clock. So they try to double up that parking. So the idea is to limit the number of parking lots you have, so you don't have all this black asphalt concrete everywhere that's not being used, right? It's better to have green grass and buildings than it is to have parking spaces. So they try to triple and double use of parking,
I think,
if that makes sense.
yeah. Taking a look at our regs and tightening them up is probably a good idea. The orientation I went to on so the ratings that the resort gets from the public and all that, their poorest rating is on parking, no place to park.
Right.
And,
Nobody wants to ride the bus.
Isn't that every resort?
well,
It's every resort, every resort.
yeah, it's every resort, but it's also trickles down valley. And, we're not that far away. And if people do take the bus, they're gonna be looking for places to park down here. And with our, current regs, barely providing they don't really truly provide adequate parking
Right.
for the climate that we have now in terms of number of people that are living in units in their cars. So if we're gonna keep our our existing standard, we should probably look at tightening it up a little bit more in terms of people say, well, I've got this on-street parking and
And one of the theories about on-street parking is if they have to park away from the business they want to be at, they have to walk by the other businesses that are in town. Right, so it gives you exposure to other businesses. So that's
Yeah.
some reasons why cities don't have a lot of parking that's available to them. That's so that people have to walk further. They want them to walk past more stores. So it depends on how you want.
well, the
your parking
resorts
to
like
work.
that.
Right.
Bring them to
The
the
resort
village.
wants you to walk through the whole village before you get to the resort.
That's why they park the buses way on the south end.
Correct.
Mhm.
They want you to see every restaurant and shop before you go ski.
Yeah.
And at your.
Well, and that's the deal with all the tenants in the village too.
So we've also allowed reduced parking for multiple family, multifamily, and I think affordable
Yes.
housing. So that, again, puts greater stress on that parking there, just for the residential people, which are competing, again, in your downtown districts.
And something else to consider that we haven't thought of, you may not have thought about. In my world, I have to think about it. Between March of 2020 until sometime in 2022, most people weren't allowed to leave the United States. So we had a lot more travelers staying in the United States. So when we talk about parking congestion, you should really look at it between what it was between 2015 and 2019, and then between today and the next 5 years. Because now we have the world opened up again. I'm sure if you ask Philip, he'd probably tell you that rentals are down, sales are down, right? Housing sales are down. Visitors to Grand County is down. Gas prices are up. We're already seeing a drop in the number of people coming. So if you try to look at the last 3 years, it's hard to say
Yeah,
that's
sure.
the
No,
normal
no.
3 years.
Right?
Right.
Well, not normal.
No.
Valid point.
But it's a great 3 years. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to shut all the borders and all the Americans have to stay here, but that'd be against the American way, wouldn't it?
That's right.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what EDAC comes up, because we passed EDAC on
Yes.
parking.
Yeah.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see
That's a good point.
what they come up with.
Yeah.
So, and another, I mean, it was wonderful to see, and there's some people that probably don't like it, but on Park Avenue, there was, I don't know, 20 cars, 25 cars that have been parked there for, some of them been parked there for years.
Mhm.
And I think that can
Isn't it
just, that could,
interesting how they all moved when they saw the sign go down?
yeah, well, that,
We say
when
code
the,
enforcement.
when the police department posted on Facebook, they all went vanished. So that, I think.
Right.
that-
So
I
what
think
posted on Facebook?
the police
That's right. The
department-
police department did post on.
I
Facebook.
did-
I saw that.
No,
But I
That's
mean,
why Dad was calling me.
but
Now
I
I know what's going
Good.
on.
I think that we as a community need to look at our parking in a whole and
Right.
say, maybe we should be putting up signs that says this is a 2-hour short-term parking. There's no overnight parking.
We
Right.
do that and there's no one to.
Well, we have a code. I met our code enforcement.
Yeah, we have a
Okay,
code
because
enforcement
in front of Sharky's, it's 2-hour parking. And then it's always cars from
Yeah.
the shop that park there overnight and wait on there. It's just sometimes completely full.
I actually used that as an example.
Thank
for-
you.
For the
Code enforcement.
farmer's market.
Oh,
It's escaped me because
Mhm.
they can park on Park Avenue and walk, and it's a block. I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, those businesses that we're trying to bring business to should be very happy that we're being as proactive as we are.
Absolutely.
And more business. When we rise together, we all rise.
Mhm.
So they should be happy that there's more businesses going in and we address parking.
Yeah, I mean,
'Cause
if
it's
they
a
come,
block,
if
it's
they
literally
come
a
here,
block.
they want to, they're going to have a destination here. And they can't find a parking spot, they're gonna go on, they're not gonna, you know. That's the problem. What about the new brewery? What is going on with the parking along, Old Victory?
That was addressed.
We posted signs saying no parking, whether people.
Well,
pay
they're
that-
gone now.
They're
the
gone.
signs are gone.
The signs are gone.
Well, that explains a lot.
The
There was
ones
like-
along
there's
Old
like
they
Victory.
dug that-
there's like
They
20
dug
signs.
that ditch.
Right, there's,
And they moved the signs and that.
Yeah, they're gone. someone moved them and they're gone.
Is that the ditch for the meadow project?
It's just the
Or-
ditch in between the road and the sidewalk
Okay,
So,
drainage, I think.
you know,
gotcha.
who did the dig? Was it
I
Clark?
mean, it's park, yeah.
Clark wanted the signs up for no parking, so he took the signs down. So
We've been out of town for a week, so he may not know that.
he's back.
Well,
Yeah.
No, I know he's back.
It's been a month.
Clark, yeah,
He's back,
Clark said it was the town's problem, not his. It's not a Grand Park issue. It's the town's jurisdiction, right?
Well,
that's
that's
our
true,
problem.
but he's still the one that asked for the signs.
What? I'm sorry?
He's still the one that asked for the signs.
Yeah, I would ask for the signs too. I mean, I mentioned it to him, but the dirt road along that parallels 40, who owns that? Is that the towns or is that Grand Park?
On the,
That's
on the
like,
inside of
this-
the berm.
do we call that John's from the bank over to
John.
the?
Right on the other side of the bank, yeah.
Yeah, it's John's.
No, that's why it's dirt. If it's dirt, it's not ours,
That's where they're parking.
because that will eventually be ours.
Yeah, eventually that will be a part of the connector road.
Well, there is
It'll
a
be
section
paved.
of that Old Victory that is dirt.
Yes,
Is
that's still Clark's.
It's still Clark.
Still
yeah.
Clark's.
Yeah,
It hasn't been deeded over.
hasn't been deeded. We've tried.
So with this Alpenglow submittal, one of the conditions was that the complete Old Victory Road in that section there.
Okay.
He still wants to fight us about it. He wants to build his phases, but the phases could last 6 or 7 years, so. I think it's important to just go ahead and get that road finished.
And the property the town bought, I think Philip mentioned at the last meeting, a counter of 8 and 40, that section that has the gas line running through it is a great place to come up with additional parking. And we need to put in a sidewalk or something so people can walk
Trail.
back into town. The trail, the bridge is out, you can't walk across, I went, look, the bridge is out, we have signs on it, so that's a good thing. Whoever put the signs up that said dangerous to this, you can't walk across that bridge.
Right now, there's a sign.
No,
Twin Rivers.
yeah, it's before the Twin Rivers Bridge. There's one that's kind of like right where the sign's at. Cause you guys asked me to put up a sold sign and I went to walk across. I'll get that done. But I went to walk across and I saw the bridge and I was like, I can get across. And I stepped up first. I'm like, no, I'm not getting wet tonight.
A little footbridge or something?
Yeah, a little.
Okay, I've
No,
never
he's
seen
doing
that.
that bridge.
No, I was like, no, not walking across this. bridge.
Somebody pushed that sign up or explained it.
Dave did. Dave came, because he didn't want people to keep calling.
So then the question for
Yeah.
chief is who would the code enforcement person be in charge of these parking violations, or is that the police?
Oh, eventually, yes.
Yeah.
We'll have the ability.
Okay.
And when we put in the new bridge on Highway 8, we lost a lot of parking there for the trail access, so it'd be great also for trail access to be parking.
Right.
On the bridge.
Right, exactly.
So we've been discussing among staff, you know, we've got Victoria Village, those vehicles that was parked there. Most of those have moved out now.
Those other two are gonna have towed. They don't have plates on them.
So we've talked about for the events, like I said, the farmer's market or Real Fest and so forth. Before we have development on Old Victory Road, and before we have a plan of development, we've been exploring the idea of using that right on Park Avenue event parking for some of this.
Yeah.
Of course, once the plans are made, that might go away, but hopefully EDAC would have a answer to parking as well.
Yeah, and if you haven't walked the property, you should go check out the property and you should go walk around it. It's an amazing piece of property. If you haven't seen it.
I have to do that. I haven't done that yet.
Yeah. Just drive by it all the time.
Cut through the condos.
Yeah, no, I mean, walk the whole
Get a better
perimeter,
vision,
walk
you
through the
know?
middle.
Would you like to have another work session then to address, you know, your questions about what does the code say about parking? Put together a summary, kind of discuss about, you know, possible options, solutions.
I would like for EDAC to,
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
we task
have
EDAC.
EDAC
work
run
with-
with it and
Yeah,
then
and then bring it back to
and then
us.
bring it back to us.
We'll bring our staff support then on that review to EDAC. Let them be the
Yeah.
person.
And it'd be great if EDAC wanted to come and meet with us too.
Right.
During that session or representatives.
Very,
Like
very, the distillery is very passionate about parking, so
Yeah.
there's multiple people on EDAC that are distillery connected. that
Right.
They should
They should
get
look at,
after it.
they should look at one ways with reverse parking.
Yeah.
It's the most efficient parking system we've ever invented. I mean, if you're good at backing into the parking space.
I'd say also the most accident. prone.
Yes, probably the most accident, but it does that allow a lot more.
I have noticed the town is getting cleaned up. It's been nice. So I think our code enforcers is he out and about?
All my junk's hidden. You
Yeah.
can't see it from the street.
That's nice. It's been nice to see
You can see it from
that
the
progress
street, though.
for sure.
He's still in training.
Yeah.
So he's riding with the police officers,
Yeah.
so he gets to do code enforcement when they're not
Right,
responding to calls. But yes, he's been quite busy,
all right.
dealing with numerous issues.
That's
with
awesome.
Both Michael and, no.
Right.
So when our staff is out doing their inspections, their rounds in the morning and driving up down the streets and doing their thing. Or do they make note if they see violations or can they and then pass that on along, code enforcement?
I don't think they do that currently unless it's a obnoxious problem.
Yeah.
And then we'll get some kind of feedback from them.
It might be worth kind of throwing on. If they're out driving, even if they just recorded it or something versus to come right now.
Well, I think we have to temper because, no different than law enforcement, there's a lot of discretion involved in, if what you're wanting is somebody to be hard nosed.
that's not the purpose of this position. We're trying to clean up the town and deal with it. We're not gonna be going after everybody who breaks a minor infraction, or everybody in this room is gonna get a ticket or something.
But
Yes, I appreciate that.
I live in Grant County, so
Of course.
I just got HOA to do.
Yeah,
But-
but a hotel in your front yard is not okay. When you have 8 mattresses and your front yard, it's not okay.
No,
What, you don't like sleeping on the stars?
What's a little bit?
and those are the kind of things.
Right.
That not only will we be responding to, we've always responded to and dealt with. So,
Well, it's been the town, I've been bringing this up several, it's been really bad for quite a while now. So it's gotten really bad again. Fraser, I remember. Yeah, so,
But you said you've noticed some improvement?
yeah, I did see,
Great.
I've seen improvements.
We've also set up, or Glenn set up an email that if notices come to us or complaints come to us, that we can funnel them to one location there, police department, that the code enforcement officer of the outfront has access to. So appreciate you setting that up.
so are we having a board retreat? You know,
It's gonna be later. Summer's not a great time for board
Yeah.
retreats.
so it's getting pushed back.
Yeah,
We're all
it's getting pushed
slightly
out.
busy.
July's,
Yeah,
did
well-
you get the?
doodle.
July,
What?
the Google.
Yeah.
Doodle. There was,
June through August is a bad time for retreats.
oh, but this is for choosing dates.
I don't think I got that. Was it in the
It was
email?
an email, yeah.
So
Yeah, look
Give
here.
it a try again.
I'll shoot you again.
Okay. might
And
be
Philip
fine.
also suggested that
Jump
maybe worthwhile to have the board pick the topics and agree on what that retreat should be. So, we don't have to have necessarily a work session for that discussion.
I can't do both day of blind influence again, sorry. I mean, I can't do a whole day of blind influence.
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just too much, that's,
30 hours was enough.
yeah, that's not acceptable to have another 8 hours or 5 hours or 3 hours or 2
It'd be good to have
hours.
an update for the new people. It would just be an update.
Yeah, it would be.
An hour,
Yeah, I mean, two max. An
30
hour and a half.
30
June
minutes.
2nd.
No, so, I mean,
Chop, chop, chop.
his presentation was really good. It's just, we had it for what, 3 days.
What?
Wow. What's that job?
Philip, you know what, I'll work with you by the time to benefit this now.
And then, Ed and Michael, since you guys are working on that property, there's a, young man that works at the well, he's a planning. Are they planning commissioners as well at the county? Anyway, he's on the planning part of the county, Will McDonald. He studied employee housing. And, I think we should invite him. If you guys have any meetings and talk about employee housing, we should invite him in. He's got a lot of good ideas. He understands density and how to make maximum density out of stuff. So that's somebody I would recommend you guys talk to.
What's his name again?
Will McDonald, I'll get you his information.
Smart.
Yeah, he's really smart. He's
That
really
could be a
on
good
top.
workshop for us right there.
He's really on top. of
Affordable
it.
housing,
Yeah, and
I think we need to, I think Victoria Village should be,
Well, there's, Will told
should
me,
be, we should have start workshops on what.
Yeah.
Sooner than later.
yeah, because there's, and I don't know if it's national or just 4 states, but it sounds like it's just the 4 states. There's $400 million you can get part of for employee housing. Workforce housing, sorry. Workforce housing, I said it would term right. So if you do workforce housing, there's a lot of money that you can get. And Will seems to know all about it. So it's a great resource.
So if a citizen comes with a planning commission, planning question, where do they go?
If they come to town hall, if we can't answer the question, we refer them to baseline.
I give him Julie's card. So I've been doing. I have a stack of them in my wallet. It's been a lot easier. Here you go, all done.
Okay.
Well, because they're interpreting our rules a little different than we interpret them, so I don't want to step on their toes and start a fight, so go here.
That doesn't sound like you.
I know, I'm growing up.
going on there?
Well,
Got a boss.
He's got a
got a
boss.
boss
now.
Now I start to fight.
So do we need to change some of the ordinances?
Right, that's what I was, if they're interpreting it different than what we thought we,
that's,
So
True.
who's they? Is this the company that, not the company that we hired to act
Yes,
as our planners?
yes, the company that we hired as our
Yes.
planners are reading things differently than how we interpret them when we created them. For all the people on the planning commission and the board, when
Huh.
we redid, do you remember when we did our
Seems like they should be
18,
pretty
17, 18.
straightforward.
17, 18? Okay, yeah.
right,
It shouldn't be
That-
subject to interpretation.
Well, that, I'll give you the example. It says up to 3 units.
Right. Yeah.
And up to is different than 3 units or less.
That
3
needs to
units
be
or more.
clarified.
So it's a clarification
Yeah,
statement.
that
right?
needs to be clarified.
What do you mean, like they,
So,
at admin level, 3 units or less? Or up to?
so
So if staff didn't feel comfortable, that left them the leeway to say,
we want to move it up.
we want to move it up to the board.
Right.
Is
The
that,
way they're reading it is duplex only are admin, anything above a duplex is town.
And because there isn't staff to,
From my understanding, I mean, and that's from an email, and talking to Julie real quick, and just, that was like, wow, I was like,
is that, is there lots? Are there lots of examples like that or only that
no, so
one?
far, that's the only one I've come
Oh,
across, but but when I was talking to Julie, she said there's differences between site development rules and plating rules.
Yeah.
So that's throwing things off, so that when you try to combine the two, it messes up your zone, what our intention was versus what you can plat. So on one lot, you could do 6 units, but because there's another plating issue above it, that 6 units goes down to 4. Well, then if they made them all single family units, then you can do the ADUs, but what's a single family? If it's townhomes that are connected, but they're not multi-family, they're just party walls. Those are technically single family housing, so you could do ADUs, but if they're multi-family, where they're all not party wall separated, then you can't do ADUs. So those would be other examples of the mismatch of our, and it's because, right, I don't know if you guys remember, right at the end of that, it kind of got rushed, right? Like the lawyers just
Yeah.
also they filed everything that was done because,
yeah, it did get rushed up very end.
right? No, we did. That's how I felt.
I have asked Julie and her team to, as they're going through and dealing with this, if they see inconsistencies in their code, keep track of that so that we can address that.
Right, and I said the same. I said, I'm not complaining, I just letting you know, this is a different interpretation.
why was that? We had a timeline on it or something, and it got rushed.
Yeah,
Or we ran out of money or we had a budget. and-
our budget ran out, and the lawyers weren't willing to just wait for us to all have discussions, they wanted to finalize.
It wasn't the attorneys. It was,
Yes, it could have been
It was,
non-attorney,
it was,
Jerry Dahl.
What?
Jerry Dahl.
yeah, Jerry Dahl.
yeah.
We probably ran out of money.
Well, but we could have, there was that point where we had the chance of just saying, okay, let's hold this off and we'll all talk about it, just amongst yourselves without them. And that was when they said, no, it's done, and they filed it.
Well,
I know.
we knew that was a white document, that it would be changed,
Right, the idea is we could adjust it.
because we knew we were not gonna get everything.
Yeah, and you
So
can't catch
that's-
everything, it takes a while,
Oh.
you have to have stuff come through the process to find your holes in that road. It's not a complaint, it's not a,
Just a comment.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break before we
Okay.
start.
Thank you.
Like to call to order the Town of Fraser's regular board meeting on June 15th at 7 o'clock. Can I please have a roll call?
Katie Fisher,
Louis Gregory.
Eileen Waldo.
Brian Cirkbenick.
Cornell Quinn.
Katie Souls.
Philip Vanderneel. Can I have can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which just has the minutes from June 1st?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Discussion and possible action. And first up is the Grandkids Learning Center expansion. So if you want to step up to the podium, introduce yourself.
Yeah.
And,
And I think Michael has a little slideshow for us. Thank you. I'm just gonna, oh, thank you. I will just point to you like last time, I think. Yeah, no, I'll keep it. So hello, thank you guys so much for hearing from us tonight. I am Ashley Bobo. I'm the Executive Director for Grandkids Learning Center. I have been the director for just over 12 years and am approaching my 17th year with Grandkids altogether. So here with me is our board president, Lisa Havlik. She has 2 children in our program, one at each of our locations. So just to start, thank you so much for your time, and we hope to go through a quick presentation with you and have a great discussion after. So I'm fairly certain that most of you guys are familiar with who we are, but I did want to just take a few minutes to give you some details about our Early Learning Center. We are a nonprofit childcare center operating in 2 locations in Fraser, as you can see on the slide, our 2 buildings. Within those 2 buildings, we operate 5 classrooms from 2 months of age up to 6 years of age. We currently have 41 children enrolled in our center. Most of them are full-time students, and we have a very active wait list. We have over 150 students on our wait list. And when I sent this yesterday, we had 44 new children on our wait list since January. And as of the end of today, we have 47 new children on our wait list. So, but one thing that I do really want to highlight, since the last time I was in front of you guys, we have been able to double the amount of teachers we have. And that is really a testament and thanks to some support that you guys gave us. And 4 of those teachers were actually teachers that had worked for us prior to being able to do wage increases and came back after we were able to increase our teacher wages thanks to your generous donation last year. So again, I just cannot even say what you guys have done for us. And we truly appreciate, and it's made a huge difference for our sustainability for sure. So just the importance of early childhood education. I truly could spend all night talking to you and geeking out on all the research behind the importance of early childhood, my personal experiences with it, and even the data we receive from Fraser Elementary after we send our pre-K graduates over and to kindergarten. But I'll keep it short and sweet. We just have a few points. So the ages that we care for, this birth to 6, those are the most critical years of the brain development. And so it's super important to be able to offer that quality care. There's also plenty of research to say that those children in this age range going to quality care, it helps break the cycle of poverty, obviously increases the school readiness skills. And one of my what I feel is one of the most valuable assets to children is their social emotional development that we're able to promote before they enter into the school years and set them up for lifelong success. So why are we important to Fraser? Well, besides being the only nonprofit childcare center in Fraser, we are also the only infant toddler program here in Fraser. And right now, our infant toddler age range is where most of our wait list sits. About 70% of the children on our wait list are either not even born yet up to the age of 3. We also continue to keep our high quality rating through the Colorado Shines rating program. Our younger building is actually going through the re-rating this month, and our older building will be going through next month. We currently hold a 4 out of 5 level in the Colorado Shines. So, and we just really want a sustainable town, and we want to invest in supporting our community however we can and supporting the growth of that. So, next. Just to give you an overview of licensed childcare spots in Grand County. Right now, Grand County is only serving at best 40% of the total children that birth to 5 age. So you have to think we're not even serving half of the children. And within that, Grandkids, we ourselves are supporting 21% of those total licensed spots. And I know it may be a little hard to read, but there are 26 total infant spots in Grand County that it spans through West Grand as well. And we provide 8 of those slots. There are 47 total slots in Grand County for toddler age, that 1 to 3, and we provide 16 of those slots. And then the preschool, we do have a few more slots available in the county. It's 167 total slots, and we provide 26 of those. But serving less than 50% of the childcare across the county is, I feel, a huge concern for not only the growth and well-being of our county, but specifically our town as well. So, what we want to do, we want to expand. We really feel confident in the quality of care that we are giving our families right now and our students. And we also feel really on a really great path for retaining our teachers. And so our next focus is what can we do for the county and really adding more care for our county. And if we were only able to double that 0 to 3 classrooms, we would be able to offer 24 more full-time slots to our families, which would obviously include increase our local workforce and expand the reach that we have for our stand. And that's a minimum basis of what we could expand to. So where can we expand? We have been looking at this for a while as our board and families, and we keep coming back to the space that's actually right next to the space that we already own in our 3 to 6-year-old building. And that happens to be space that you guys own and the tennis courts are occupying right now. We feel that there's a lot of benefits to using that space. Number one, we do completely own our space with the 3 to 6-year-old building, and we could really utilize space there and expand out to the tennis courts as well. And not only that, but it's already a kind of natural education complex with the elementary school right across the street. And we already have so many families that are utilizing going straight from dropping their elementary school child off and then coming right to our building and dropping off their child. So, and then one other thing to consider right now too is universal pre-K is going into effect in the fall of 2023 for Colorado, and Fraser Elementary is also super tight on space. So we would love to be able to be a supportive piece to offering that free childcare option for pre-K students if we had the space for it. So next steps is really, are you guys interested in talking through this with us and seeing what that would look like? If so, we are completely committed to finding the best solution for all of us, for you guys, the rec center with their tennis courts, our families, and of course our center. Right now, there are a lot of funding opportunities for early childhood in the state of Colorado for expansion after COVID took a huge hit for early childhood. So we would love to jump on some of these opportunities, but we are also super committed to supporting the rec center with whatever would be needed in the tennis court relocation as well. So it's going to be a long process, but we feel we could be really great partners and just want to know what you are thinking.
So you
for-
anticipate having to use the space where the tennis court is, so the tennis courts would go away?
So the tennis courts would be rehomed, not go away.
Well, they would go away somewhere. They would go
They would go somewhere.
somewhere, or at least
yes.
the-
We
the
can't go
stands and
up.
the nets would go
Yes.
somewhere.
Yes, yes.
We just can't build up in our current center because of the regulations with the ages of the kids.
So yeah, there's a lot of stipulations with safety concerns on
Mhm.
going up, but we can go out quite a bit. We've already had some conversations with Scott Ladine, who's very supportive of working together for a solution.
Mhm.
And we have he has some ideas, we have some ideas, we're working, but really right now, until we can't do anything else until we hear from what you guys think.
Yeah, we know we can't get obviously a yay or nay at this time. It's
Right.
just, is this the path we're going down? If we're gonna spend the
Mhm.
money and the resources by looking into this location, is it something that even the town would be willing to give over? And in what way would we be able
Yeah.
to, if it's a long lease or purchase or whatever that needs to be, at least to start to get those conversations going.
So I'm super supportive of this idea.
Right.
Oh,
How,
I am too.
my concern is, we just had to give you guys money to
yes,
keep functioning.
yes.
You
So
were down to 4 days a week. How is that sustainable with a larger?
we did a huge, so the funds that you were able to support us with not only bridge the gap for us until the next budgeting season to go ahead and increase that teacher pay, but we have now budgeted and increased the tuition rates and have a very sustainable budget planned for moving into the future. And we were also able to bridge that gap with the families with some scholarship funds as they had a bigger increase into this tuition rate. So we really do feel confident that we are now on par with where our county sits for raise rates. And we have been able to add in a Friday care option for our families, kind of like we did our weekend program prior, because the Friday still isn't a huge need for us, but those that are needing it are able to utilize it through our younger building and through our site director,
Yeah, that
Kim
chunk
Bella.
really bridged a gap so that we didn't have to
Huge.
pay this huge increase on families right away. We could do it a little bit more incrementally, get wages up, get rates up, and then also offer a scholarship for it because we didn't want to jump on all of the families, of course, because we
Yeah.
have a very wide range.
I do see that tennis court being used frequently. Like
Yes.
I actually, before you guys, I didn't even know this was coming, and there's a bunch of kids over there playing.
Yes. And that,
Tennis, and it was, it's neat seeing
Absolutely.
that. And so I think that part of it would be that that would go away in the town of Fraser.
well, I don't think it would go away. I think the process that we're looking at, if you guys are willing to work with us, is going to be in a slower time frame than what a relocation for the tennis courts would need to be.
Mhm.
And
They do have that outbuilding, which I'm sure you may be aware of, that the rec center is hoping to do an outbuilding with pickleball and tennis courts. That land is Grand Park land. So it's just waiting on figuring out when they're gonna be able to get that land. When we talked to Scott, he was willing to see if we could take apart, or if they could take apart part of their parking lot, or if they could rearrange some things. He was gonna have conversations. So he's also very on board that the need is there and that he gets it. But of course, as well, the tennis courts are used. So
And we want
they
that.
are a thing that the
Yeah.
town needs. So we had some other ideas of maybe we're gonna have our architect come out and see if we need both tennis courts right away, or if we can start an expansion at a little bit at a time, and then maybe they become pickleball courts. And so anyway, there was all of these irons in the fire of, yes, exactly, how are we going to find a new home for them? And it may be incremental until that outbuilding gets approval and is built. But yes, there was a process of it. So it was kind of
Yeah.
then going, okay, if we're gonna start finding some of these short-term solutions, is this property even gonna be
An
something that we
option
can
for
use?
us.
Yeah.
I'm only one vote too, by the way.
Yeah.
Just so you
We know, yes.
So I
Yeah.
had a couple
No.
questions.
Yeah.
So what is the cost for families? Is it needs-based type
So the cost is based on the classroom age because we have different ratios that we have to have for the younger the child is, the more teachers we need to be able to man it. So the average daily tuition is between $77 and $62 a day for families.
So it's not based on income or anything like that?
Mm-mm, no,
That's where we have the scholarship program.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what are the qualifications for people for kids to be enrolled? Is it?
there's
only-
no qualifications.
there's- so
It's
not for
truly-
Fraser residents only.
No, no.
Do Fraser residents have priority?
So enrolled families, already enrolled families have the first priority. We do have with Wapiti Meadows where our younger building is, we do put their residents at a higher priority as well. But other than that, it is truly when you call on the wait list. And I was actually speaking to somebody on the wait list today that they have been on our wait list since February and they're down to the wire of whether or not they move to the community and take a job in the healthcare, whether or not they can get care in our community or not. So, but we do not just discriminate on anything else
And
with
your
our
funding-
location.
Comes from different sources from us, I guess, and
So
other municipalities?
as a nonprofit, we rely really heavily on fundraising and grant writing and then tuition as well.
It's a lot of pies that are.
There are a lot of pies
It
into
seems
the,
like if, we're gonna support it, we're gonna fund it and donate property and stuff, that Fraser residents should have priority.
we are willing to truly, we just think that this is a great starting point and we are willing to consider anything and everything. We've already been considering a lot of options, but we know you guys are a great mind to work with and really help support our community as a whole, for sure.
Well, yeah, I'm a pediatrician, so I'm
Yeah.
very supportive of this. And
Yeah.
what you say about early childhood
Mhm.
education is really true. It's very important to support, but
Yeah.
if we're gonna be, supporting and funding it, I think there should be an allowance
Absolutely.
So
For
for
Fraser,
just to, for,
Pluto.
just for your.
Can I ask
we-
you something
we
about
did-
the,
We did a one-time give. It's,
Okay.
we don't,
Right.
it's not in our budget every year.
Okay.
No.
So,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
so they were, about the one-time give that was last year?
Yeah.
We had talked about you asking the county in Winter Park and
Mhm.
did anybody else in Granby also, anybody that had kids, did you ask any of the other
We
municipalities?
did.
And
We
if so,
got
did you have any
small
luck?
donation funds
Mhm.
from from Winter Park and the Board of County Commissioners, but not from Granby.
And there any Granby kids in the center?
We do not actually have any Granby kids currently in our center.
Granby have any?
I mean, this kind of dovetails into the affordable housing.
So Granby, their main infant, so the only infant and toddler care that they have in Granby is Little Sprouts. Little Sprouts also has preschoolers, and then Granby preschool within this elementary school is another option at that preschool age, and then Granby Play Days is an option for them as well.
And what
Currently, there's a
about
lot of
teacher
kids, there's a lot of kids on
qualifications?
this side of the valley that are going to Granby.
Yes.
Yes, there are. And just kind of a perspective of when somebody is added to our wait list, I was going through and just trying to pull data for you guys. We had a family that called in January of 2020 at the time that they were pregnant. They delivered in July of 2020, and we are just now in September going to be able to enroll them.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah, this guy.
There's Kai.
Hey, Kai.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Hey, bud. I don't believe anybody was.
Okay, any
wanting
more?
to speak.
I like
support
that.
it.
I
I
sup-
think it's
I-
great. And then if there's grant dollars, the sooner we could actually make some kind of a commitment, we
Right.
can work out the details. I like your idea of
For sure.
waiving a percentage to the town of Fraser if we end up gifting the land to them, but there's a huge
Priority.
need for it.
Yeah, I mean,
It
I
should
think
be all
it does
Fraser.
tie into affordable housing. It's the
Mhm.
total cost of,
Yeah.
maintaining a family in this community.
Yeah.
And childcare is very expensive.
Well,
Yeah.
$77 a day is 5 hours, $15 an hour.
Yeah.
Mhm. And if we use that whole space, maybe you'll be able to even accommodate more children than 24.
Oh, that is the
That's
very
very-
minimum of
Okay.
what we could accomplish, but without
And we
talking
need
to you guys,
staff
we
and all
didn't
that.
want to get too far into the process and start looking at
Having our
specific.
architect come out, having-
Yeah. But we already have a local architect that's willing to work with us, and is very versed in childcare needs, and
There are,
specifications.
there are some abandoned tennis courts on, what is that, Rendezvous? right?
So
Yeah.
it's funny that you say that because Scott actually gave us the blessing to start calling anybody and everybody to ask for use of their space from
So I-
HOAs and everything. And he said it's going to look a lot better from us as an early childcare center asking for those interim times.
You can just move the task force to one location. versus two.
Well, one of my concerns is from move, and I don't know who's using them, what age, but I'm concerned about them being moved away from the kids in Old Town Fraser here who can walk here, but going to the rec center or somewhere else
Put all
is.
that pavement right by the railroad track that nobody's supposed to be on. Just put the tennis courts there.
So we have started some initial grant research and fun and and to see how much it would even cost. And what we have found is it is expensive for tennis courts for that infrastructure of their base
Mhm.
layer, but there are a lot of funds there. So and Scott was very willing to work with us on some alternatives. But also, if we are going to be looking at building, there's a big process to that. So to even start getting architectural plans, then to get bids from construction companies, to then submit for grants, to then be on the thing, we're probably looking, we've got at least this summer and next with those tennis courts. And I really do feel that we could have a really great home for them way before we're ready to dig up and start any construction as well.
Over by the school, there's room for tennis courts as well. You put them on the other side. I mean, it's expensive. You build the base, obviously, but once you get the tennis court built.
Well, I
Yeah.
think if the rec center gets the property,
Right.
that takes
then-
care of that.
And that they're already on the
That's-
plans, like
that's
Scott has a
out of the
really great
range
drawing in his
for
office.
With- I think it's
Walking.
It's without the walking range of the children. It's
Yeah.
not.
It's not outside of biking range though.
No, it isn't. And there's a lot of
That's
kids.
true.
in
They're
the
not
park
crossing
that
40.
use it.
right, it's not that.
It is hard for kids
to get
to
the rec though. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
That live in this area. Childcare.
If they're not
issue is
biking,
more important.
yeah,
know.
they're tired before they get there if they're walking.
Alone because they have no childcare. There's nothing for them to do.
I'll take a school childcare center over a tennis court any day.
Right.
Is in my opinion.
for sure.
So, I mean, they're
Yeah.
tennis court is,
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I support it.
No, right.
but
Well,
I-
and that's where if we need to
I
do it
don't
in
want a
phases, we're
location.
willing to look at
Right.
that so that there's a really nice home. We're truly open to fully supporting the community. This is why we're coming. We're not in it for our money. You know that, as a nonprofit. Like, that is not why we're here. We just really want to make sure our community continues to grow as it should and that families are supported as they need to be.
I think you have your answer. We're supportive.
Okay.
Do some more work and bring it back to us. That's
Okay.
what I say.
So yeah, I will connect with Ed on next steps then. So thank you guys so truly much, not only for hearing us today, but for your donation last year. It has really made a huge difference in growth in our center over the last year. So we're
Right.
super
Th-
excited.
This board will change in 2 years too, so.
That works.
After
That works. We got it.
Because a
We
new
will
board- a
put
new
the-
board- a new board to change.
We will put fire under everybody.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
Get her done.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you guys
Thank you,
very much. Have
ladies.
a great evening.
That's awesome. Keep up the good work.
That's good. Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Okay, next is resolution 2022-0603, opting out of the family. Which is a mandatory state unless you opt out.
Correct. And as you recall, last month, we had a work session to talk about the family, the requirements by the Colorado Act that was passed in 2019 takes effect January of next year, where payroll deductions would be required from every employee and every employer in the state. And benefits would be eligible to those employees starting in January 1st of 2024. The only organizations within Colorado that have the ability to voluntarily opt out are local governments. And I think we had a pretty good robust discussion about that before. We've had one meeting, as we talked about last meeting. We had one meeting with the staff to get their inputs on that. We have some requirements with the state as far as notification. And tonight is one of those requirements is we have this on the agenda. It's not necessarily a public hearing classification. However, employees do have a chance to make comments at this meeting tonight, whether they're doing in person or online. I see only one employee really online here. By opting out, it basically says that we are not going to follow this. We're not going to take payroll deductions for our employees. We're not going to support that from a town general fund perspective. One of the questions that we brought up in the discussion the last time was we feel that we can provide similar levels of service and benefits to our employees without going through a payroll deduction plan. I know there was a couple of questions, Lewis, you asked about questions about, calculating the cost of lost time for people being out. And so I think that's kind of hard to do, but we could probably do some more research on that. We don't have to decide on our internal policies tonight, but because of the timelines from the state, we were given July 1st to file this opt-out or elect to remain in, but it does require an action by the governing body.
So Ed, that third paragraph, it says, and employees can still participate individually. So they can still participate. It's
That's
just not
correct.
mandatory. They have the option either to go with that or with the town's benefits. Is that
Correct.
right?
And if they do participate, the town would not be under an obligation to match those funds.
Or to provide benefits for them,
I believe so.
or at least healthcare benefits.
They would still be eligible for healthcare benefits and such, but if they took the leave under the Family Act, then they would not be eligible for double dipping in between a leave program and town leave.
Okay,
They would be excluded from town long-term leave options.
so sick leave.
Yeah, they would still be eligible for basic sick leave, but they would not be able to tap into a 12-week extended sick leave from the town and from the family plan. And if they opt in, they have to pay their portion to the state. The town doesn't pay on their behalf.
Okay, any other questions? We have to let any staff would like to comment with the right now. Does anybody on staff want to?
No pressure, Sarah.
Don't raise their hand.
Did you say you took sort of a straw poll of this from staff and? We had a meeting with all the staff. That would have been probably in early May.
It was in April.
April, excuse me, you're right. And I don't recall anyone saying, no, we want this. Most of them are saying, no, we don't want to pay into these benefits, especially if we could find a way to provide a same benefit. Okay.
To the direct question, 18 of 21 staff, 17 said they wanted to, would not want to participate. One of the 18 voted that they would like to participate.
Which they can do. Right. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution 2022-0603, opting out of family.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, next is the treasurer's report from Rob.
Glad I didn't have to follow the grandkids.
Yeah.
So this is the continuation of kind of the monthly treasurer's report. And just want to go ahead and start off, Michael.
By the way, the flags look great on 40.
Don't they? Wow.
Have you noticed the flowers?
Yep, the flowers are getting there, the gardeners are doing
Can,
awesome
can we
job,
buy Fraser flags from the town of Fraser?
and all the hanging baskets.
I'm
Sorry,
assuming
Rob.
Sarah purchased those. I'm not sure if we have extras.
Colleen got them.
Who-
Oh, Kathleen, sorry.
Kathleen. I mean, if
think.
we wanted to make them available to the
Chris.
public, we could have that conversation.
What's that, hanging basket?
No.
No, the flags.
Oh, the flags. yeah.
I would love to hang one at my
They're
business. but-
beautiful.
Very cool. Anyhow. Okay, Rob, sorry.
Right on. This is the aggressive pointing. So what we're gonna do is start off with kind of where we had a couple of items last time. The reserve and operations, kind of, here's the cash on hand, giving you an idea of where things are, simply because money moves back and forth between funds. Then Lewis had asked for a historical perspective, so providing that. Then looking a little bit at the sales tax revenue and how that impacts through a lot of different pieces of this budget. And then wrapping things up with kind of a look at the water and wastewater funds individually that Brian had asked about, kind of diving into some of the funds. So any questions before we get rolling? Lots of eye charts. Go ahead. This is what we started with last time. The blue was the general fund reserves. The green was the operating funds that we had. You could see where in May to June, we didn't have as big an increase in reserves because we're tapping into reserves for capital projects. But we had an influx in operating funds just because that's when sales tax kicked up a lot and some other items. But that was the 1 year, this year snapshot. If we go to the next slide, this will show you over the last 5 years. So this is, if we combine those and we're looking at just total monthly cash position, we had consistency in 18, 19, and 20. Things were starting to pick up a little bit. 2021 was really good, but that's when we were kind of shutting down a lot of spending, not knowing what was going on. So we were still generating reserves, but not spending as much. So that made these values go up. But we've still maintained a pretty high position right now.
Is there a lag? And was that in the previous slide? Is there a lag in the cash on hand and?
No, not for these values, because this is actually cash on hand in that month. I'll show you in the next one with the sales tax where it is a lag. And so we collect the sales tax, but it's really representing the prior month. And so that's why we're seeing a little bit of, you see the little dip at the top. That's actually, you'll see that is where mud season, the tax revenue dips. It shows a dip in June, but it's really from May.
It's interesting not to see that in 2021 or 2020.
Yeah, 2021, there was no shoulder season.
Yeah.
Everybody was hunkered down and trying to
Right.
take trips when they could. And this also, I will say, had a big impact from sales tax that you will see. This is where the state of Colorado has made Amazon now has to collect local sales tax for everything sold delivered to a Fraser address. And so we've had a lot more collection of sales tax revenue that way. But also 2021 had a lot of plant investment fees and other kind of big ticket deposits placed with us.
Is there a way to, I'm not asking for me, a way to get around paying the Fraser sales tax that money escapes? Like if I buy, a car or an RV or whatever, that sale, it doesn't matter where I buy it. It depends on where I live, right? And that sales tax is collected by Fraser. Is there a way that people get around that?
Yes and no, because there's a lot of different sales taxes. But so you go down to Boulder and you buy a car in Boulder. They're not going to collect Boulder sales tax. They're going to say where you're going to register the car, and then they charge you that sales tax for the tax and tags. And when you register your car in Grand County, it's collected here. And it's based on your residence. The challenge is a lot of people have POs. And if you're a Fraser resident and you have a Winter Park PO and a Fraser PO, you want everything delivered to your Fraser PO because Winter Park has a higher sales tax. So people play the game a lot. There are a lot of people who Airbnb, because of the way they've cached their maps, call you Fraser, but you might be in Grand County, or you might be in Winter Park. Like for when we first moved here, we were listed as Granby. So there's a lot of things all over the place that you're getting different sales tax applied at different places.
I'm just wondering if there's money out there that we're not capturing because of that.
Probably trying to detail it out and going through the tax records and stuff. It gets to be a little bit complicated and maybe not worth it. When we talk about use fees for building materials, there's a lot there. For the motor vehicles is not as much. Is what we've kind of realized is it becomes kind of budget dust.
Is anyone doing that for the town?
No. Well, in my spare time.
You're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And the HR. And
Yes.
everything goes right. Okay.
But no, and I think I'm focusing a lot on sales tax because I think it's a very interesting revenue stream, and seeing how it's changing because it makes up, a third to 2/3 of our budget. So it's significant.
I believe that it goes off your driver's license, doesn't it? And you have to have a physical address on your driver's license.
Yeah.
So-
For the motor vehicle piece, but for general purchases and stuff like that.
Right.
And a lot I will say is people are buying from Amazon because they can't get something locally, but we're still at least getting that tax. I'd rather see people supporting local industries, but supply chain stuff is just hard.
Well, it goes both ways, and
Mhm.
people pay taxes to the town of Fraser that don't live in the town of Fraser. So we see that also. If you're unincorporated in Fraser, a lot of people don't dispute that they're paying taxes in Fraser, even though they don't live in Fraser.
Is that stuff they buy in Fraser, like going into the hardware store or?
More online sales. I mean, we see it with short-term rentals, and we do try to get that corrected to make sure that people are paying the correct taxes, but it happens.
I'm just wondering, is it worthwhile looking at hiring somebody to go after those dollars? I don't know how much it is, but I don't know how sizable it is, but.
And the first slices I'm looking at it's kind of budget dust. It's like less than $100,000, and which is money, but that's in lots of different little buckets and a lot of tracking it down and then documenting it and such, which I don't think is really a great use of time and energy. But I do think it is important to think about, hey, we're planning a development. We might consider mixed use more than just residential. So that you have a sales tax stream, or you might say, hey, we're looking at a small business that is actually almost operating as a small distribution center becomes a tax hub. Those are things that are pretty viable and will have a ripple effect somewhere in the code. And whether that's worth it or not is kind of where you can, that's where the kind of the board decision is like, oh, is this a good idea or a bad idea from a long-term revenue standpoint?
Do they base it on your zip code? Because if you look at the zip code map, Winter Park goes all the way to Tavis.
Yep. Yeah, shouldn't be based on zip code because everything gets, Amazon lists us as Fraser, but 2 different zip codes for Fraser. And I think Airbnb and VRBO or HomeAway has been the hardest because they kind of ran it off of maps and just kept the maps and don't really update them annually. It's the individual homeowner has to apply to them to change their tax jurisdiction. Yeah, and then it's a crapshoot if you find out if they did it.
So that's part of our registration process. For the town of Fraser.
It is for STRs, but if they're not in the town of Fraser,
Yeah.
then and several people have called and said, hey, I don't live in Fraser, my STR is not in Fraser. I need my tax money back. And I paid into it for 3 years. And so by being a statutory town, they go to the Colorado Department of Revenue and deal with them. We don't work with them on that.
Interesting.
Like Fraser has a piece that's outside of town.
So you said Fraser has 2 zip codes? I thought one of them had 1.
Well, it only has one, but there's multiple zip codes that combine into it.
That
And
are,
there is a section of Winter Park that's in part of Fraser. if you Dig down on the zip codes.
Yeah.
And it's all because it was messed up back in the day.
It's still messed up, just so you
It's
know.
it's not going away, unfortunately.
unincorporated Fraser
Careful what, I mean, there's a lot of short-term rentals in out of our area that are probably paying into the town of Fraser.
Mhm.
but
It's up to the homeowner to really.
Yeah.
You should be paying attention when you're paying taxes.
Well, they get all the other benefits, right? They get water and
I'm
sewer.
just saying,
So,
let's not run the flag up.
yeah, okay.
And
Right, that's a good point.
So
We might actually lose more than we gain.
Yeah, right.
yeah, I think a lot of it does come out in the wash. So this is the sales tax version, same kind of chart, but just sales tax. Now, January is really high, because this is a month in arrears. So this is Christmas shopping. Sales tax in December is always the highest, and it transfers to January on this chart. A couple things that I thought were interesting out of this is that you can see kind of May, June, that's mud season. And August kind of showing a peak, looking at July being a really busy month for sales tax for us. The idea that people in the winter are staying in Winter Park, but in the summer are coming more through Fraser for biking and such and festivals. And then looking at kind of the 2021 September bump being could be Mural Fest. Those are things that I'm like, they kind of say, hey, you don't have a shoulder season anymore. You've had a great fall. You have some ongoing festivals. We may lose a little bit somewhere else, but we're making up a lot more in some new areas for us. I will point out also that 2022, kind of as Parnell mentioned earlier, we're seeing a big dip. That's a bigger decline from April. That was really the month of April. So it's sales tax is one of those things that is hard to figure out because it's pretty fickle. We have some very stable bases that we can say, yes, we do expect to get this much from Safeway and Murdoch's. I was like, big grocery stores, cannabis, booze, basically you're like, here's your top 10, they keep rotating. And so you can kind of get some estimation on what your sales tax will be, but inflation could change people's spending habits dramatically. So.
In 2021, we're so impacted by COVID and people not going to Denver, spending money and staying here. They were a real shocking on for us.
Yeah.
It was an anomaly.
That big dip though is.
Yep.
It'd be interesting to see what next month.
Yeah.
Like, because you can see the trend with 2021 staying significantly higher above 2020, and then it's caught up for April, which is reported in May.
It all
for
depends on
20.
how hot Denver is.
Well, and the other
High
part
inflation.
is, this could be a blip because April, the governor had a sales tax holiday for retail, where businesses didn't have to pay their sales tax. They had a 1 month waiver, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, we take a bigger hit there. We do collect sales tax up to 2 months in arrears, so some of these numbers change. But the big dip was concerning until I saw that Polis had given a tax holiday, and I was like, oh, that's.
Does the house sales impact this?
This is not tied to property tax or house sales. This is retail, short-term rentals, anyone's selling or doing business within our jurisdiction.
One of the graphs we should put together is water usage versus tax sales and see if the water usage is up and tax sales are down. That would tell you if people are spending less in the county, being able to spend.
Unless you have a big leak.
Yeah.
Well, that does affect things.
I just can't believe that more sales tax is collected. I mean, if you look at 18 and 19, more in July than December.
Well, January.
Like
is
they're
now
busy this month.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Well, there's a
So,
lot of people
yeah,
wandering
yeah.
around.
Well, it's scary.
the shop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just I bet Winter Park sales tax line looks a lot different than Fraser's.
It probably does. I mean, the spike in July, I think, is tied to lots of festivals, lots of stuff going on. I mean, the town feels very vibrant in July, and there's a lot going on, and it's hard to get around. I will say, it's between 18 and 19 is when the ordinance was passed that you had to collect local sales tax. And so all tax rates kind of went up after that, but it took a while for implementation. And so I think that was part of the lag that boosted 2020, but also COVID also was a big impact there.
Gotcha.
October in 21 and 20, that little bump is interesting.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just the opposite of the 2 years below that.
And I don't know if that's a carryover from Eurofest or a really nice fall, or people, the biking season getting extended. It could be. I mean, I don't know.
Our busiest
September.
months, so July, August, September.
Yep.
And then, like, those are our 3 busiest months with both of the businesses.
And what I see in this is that there's a shift in the town. It's like, rather than being a ski town, it's more the summer fall bike town, or just that, because people aren't stopped at the resort as much.
There might have been guns and ammo sales at Murdoch's.
Mhm.
A lot of
Monday.
money,
Yep.
and they sold a lot.
For COVID.
So a little different variation on the same slide. So the black line is if you take what we budgeted for sales tax and average it out by monthly over the time period, it's about 250,000 a month. That's what we budgeted at. So we always know sales tax is going to come in above, but where we actually operate in the actuals, if we do the same averaging, and averaging is with annual budgets is bad because it's like hand in the freezer, hand on the stove, it's not real. But it's about $460,000, which the delta there is 2.4 million over the year. And so that is something that this is why I'm paying attention a lot to sales tax. That's a big delta, and there's no easy way to predict it. But it is, I see this as one of the big elements that impacts the rest of our budget. So I talk about it a lot.
You don't have to answer
Our
this
actual
question,
versus budget.
but do you think we're headed towards recession based on the numbers you're seeing, or is it something that's going to be a short-term blip? This spike in costs and drop in sales.
So all these numbers are retroactive, so they're not good predictors at all. I will say I'm not an optimist or pessimist. The water has giardia, and I'm not gonna, I look at the worst case all the time. So I think that yes, we are gonna have a recession. Will the recession stop or change spending dramatically? Maybe, maybe not. Icon sales are up and stuff, so people are going to keep doing the vacations, and they're going to keep planning the big trips. They're not willing to give that up yet. So I don't know bookings are going to be all over the place at that though.
But inflation actually helps sales revenues. right?
Yeah, but it also drives our costs up, so it balances out somewhere.
Yeah, it's just more.
Yeah.
coming to
Yeah,
town.
right now we'll do better on our investment accounts, and we'll do better on sales tax as far as the overall dollar amount, because the rates will be higher. The costs for us to take care of projects and stuff will also be higher. So next one. So this is how it flows into the actual funds. So this is just a 3-year look. And this gets to a little bit of the water use, like is water down and stuff. Same idea of month to month. The challenge here is, like, if we look at 2022, it's horrible. We're negative. That's because most of these funds operate off an allocation model. And I have not allocated all the March basically utility payments into the correct fund. It's all sitting in another place right now. We've collected it. We have the revenue. It looks like we're in good shape, but it hasn't balanced between water and wastewater because it gets split. But you see 2 really big spikes here. One, in each year, you can see kind of the quarterly spikes, but then this May and September spike, or August spikes. The way these funds operate is they really run a deficit for most of the year because they're quarterly in terms of getting revenue. And we project out where they're going to end up. And then we do a big cash infusion from remaining budget in somewhere, basically sales tax surplus from the general fund. And that's kind of how these, when you ask me like, how much money is in here? I'm like, well, it depends, have I done an allocation or not? But it is, right now, there's nothing that I look at going in the water fund is in a bad shape. It's holding a good reserve. We're contributing to the reserve every year so far. But there are going to be some big swings here. And this is kind of what happens in a lot of the funds is that you're like the community housing fund, which is under the town board, 800,000 just went out for Victoria Village. And you're like, oh, well, now we're running a big deficit, it looks like. And it doesn't tie as nicely as like a regular business fund. Essentially, we're doing a lot of floating of cash back and forth.
So Rob, why do we do it quarterly? I've never been in the town that does a quarterly water billing. It's always monthly. I mean, wouldn't that help smooth it out?
Well, so, I mean, we do have a base and a use in the water, which is why this one actually spikes a lot when we get to the wastewater, which is just the base. It's much smoother. But the quarterly is, I don't know why we do it.
Plus time.
Mhm.
I mean, it's got to take less time to do it on a quarterly basis than it does monthly.
Well, and as of July 1st, all these statements will be electronic.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're moving that direction. But I think, we were hand mailing, stamping, licking, all
Yeah.
that good stuff. What was it? I think we had about 1,100 paper bills quarterly. And we have, Ed had asked a question, since the mailer went out, we've added 130 people to the paperless service. So a week and a half. And we're hoping to keep that momentum for the next week and a half. And then July, we will have people who are like, oh, I didn't know about this. How do we do this quickly?
So if we were using online payments before, do we still sign up? Do we, I
Well,
mean, do we have to re-sign up?
so if you already have an online account, if you are logging in and paying your bill, you would probably need to make sure that you are enrolled in paperless billing. If
No.
there's a little checkbox. Some people have not checked that box, even though they're using the online service.
And you could sign up for auto draft too. So it's.
Yep.
I mean, I don't I mean, if you have it all electronic,
Yep.
there's no reason not to move it to a monthly
Yep.
payment. In
Well-
my mind, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I think that's a,
Can you
I mean,
opt
it's-
in
it's
to a
a-
paper bill?
Time value
there
of money,
are
you're
a
losing
couple
money by
people
not
who don't
collecting.
have electronics. And they are going to stop by town hall quarterly to pay their bill. But if they wanted to enroll, they could do auto pay and it would be great. So, but I think changing it would be something that I think that would have to be a board decision, and I would want to understand any ripple effect. It might be the fees that we pay on the transactions. So kind of like payroll, we only process people quarterly because it costs money to do that processing. So, and then next slide. So this is the wastewater funds. The big thing here is it's a little smoother, but you still have your big spikes, and the big spikes are bigger. It all goes downhill.
So neither fund is self-sustaining through user fees and
It might be self-sustaining. Ongoing user fees are one piece of it that can pay, that usually covers a lot of this stuff. But as we have big capital repairs or fixes to the system, then those are not, it's harder to smooth those out. And that's, where the reserves come in. The reserves are not reflected here. This is just your operating regular expenses and revenues. The influx, or I'll say the plan investment fees and some of the other sales of meters and stuff like that, all that stuff helps supplement. And I don't know for sure if that is enough to supplement in the long run. But this would be, this goes back to like, okay, rate studies and stuff like that. I'm just trying to get an idea of really where things fall, to know a little bit more apples to apples when we do some of the comparisons.
So why, Rob, if it's quarterly, why aren't you seeing 4 spikes? And why are those spikes year to year so different? I mean, they're.
So two things. One is wastewater doesn't have a use fee. It's just a flat fee. So you don't get the use spikes that go through the year. It's an add-on for the water. That's a bigger, water cost more than the wastewater side. These spikes, one is in August, September, because that's when we had enough reserves from the general fund to pay it. As we were getting more sales tax earlier, we were able to pay, do that big infusion earlier in the year. They're not timed to anything unless there was, I think in 2020, there was a capital project that hit. And so they're like, okay, let's make this adjustment and cover that capital project.
What year was it that we tacked on the fee for gallons over, I forget how many gallons per?
Yeah.
Was that 2020? Was that 3 years ago or longer?
No longer.
I think it's longer.
I'm thinking 2011, 2012, maybe.
Okay. No.
You don't think?
I know.
Recently in the last.
Anyway, but that wouldn't be reflected here.
That was a tiered, when you hit a certain level, it charges more. And last one. So this, I mean, to me, this, I'm gonna shift the treasurer's reports because kind of seeing how the pieces fit together. And really focus more from here on out on capital projects. Because those are the big ticket projects that you're like, oh, how is this going? Are we overspending, underspending? And it's more like a business where you can understand. They're not as influenced by big infusions of sales tax revenue or allocations that are coming from different funds, which are really not changing anything. They're just moving money between funds. But the focus will be on capital projects, and we can say, oh yeah, are we managing this well? Are we not managing it well? Are we making progress towards what the overall town goals are? So are there any other questions or?
I have a question. I don't know if it's for you, Rob, but the new drought restriction, whatever stage 1 drought we're in, and is there someone enforcing that, or is that just so involuntary? You're only supposed to water 2 days a week between, I don't know, 10 at night and, well, I don't know, can't remember what the times are, but is there any enforcement of that?
For stage 1, I don't think there is.
I
Like,
believe it was listed as voluntary.
Unless,
Yeah.
okay, I just wasn't sure.
But our enforcement officer, if nothing else, can
Well,
get out, not necessarily
sure we-
enforce it, but give information. Because I saw people the other day, when I was riding my bike to Grand Park, middle of the day, it's hot, they're running their spring.
I guess if your neighbor rats you out, but
Yeah.
other than that.
The other argument, the reason they put in that drought restrictions is when you're on the front range, there's actually the possibility that you water your lawn and vaporizes and goes to the next day. Up in Grand County, the possibility of you watering your lawn and vaporizes and goes to the next day is 0.
Next what?
Go to the
state?
next day. Yeah.
State.
Yeah, because the divide blocks it.
So
Stays
because look, so.
We
our
water in
soil mixture-
Kansas?
So between our altitude and our soil mixture, we don't have as much evaporation. So the water doesn't evaporate into the air and travel over the mountains. So the water we use in Grand County pretty much stays around.
That's
About 4 feet down into the mud level.
That's not true. They're shipping it all over the front range. Okay,
No,
now let's move
So,
on. Let's move on. Let's move
I
on.
did have, Ryan asked me, and I'm pretty sure this is still the case, that our overages at year end are still rolling into our reserves.
correct.
Perfect. I
And
just wanted
so
to make sure we were still doing that.
The last 2 years, you've done it. I'll say the town of Fraser has done a good job of having overages. I'll say mostly through sales tax revenues and such, and rolling that into reserves, and splitting it out between funds. I will say prior, some of the funds were under funded as far as their reserves. So this is building back up to where they should be.
Thank you. Good job.
Thanks, Rob. That was
I'd love
awesome.
to be
You
happy.
are going to continue the sales tax graph.
If you would like me to.
I would love to see that.
Yes, yes.
That one I want to see every,
Yeah.
once a month.
Okay.
So that we can keep an eye on that. 'cause-
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So now I need a motion to suspend the town board and open the liquor license authority.
So moved.
And now I need a second.
I second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Opposed? So now we're in the Fraser Liquor License Authority for 10 Cup Tavern license renewal and change of manager. All the documentation was in the packet. This came to the board, and I'm gonna let Antoinette give details why this came to the board. This could have been a staff level, but it is not.
So, the reason that this is coming to the board, which you guys don't usually see, usually the town clerk has the administrative authority to approve liquor license renewals and new manager registrations. But in the Fraser Town Code, it has to come to the liquor licensing authority if there's any reason that so the liquor license renewals cannot be done, provided the town clerk is aware of no information that the license has violated any provisions of the Colorado Liquor or Beer Codes or associated regulations during the preceding year. So the Tin Cup Tavern had 12 incidences within the last year, 6 of which were actual violations of the liquor code, which is the state code. They did have a show cause hearing to address their violations, and they did go to court. They did have their liquor license suspended for 4 days, and in lieu of any additional fines or anything else. It did go to the municipal judge. Remember, we did change our code just last year, that those violations now go to the municipal judge rather than the town board, which it used to go to. So it did go to the courts. The license was suspended for 3 days, and since they've had this show cause hearing, they've had no additional violations, and that was in December. So that's been 6 months. So they did meet that show cause hearing and meet the requirements within that hearing. And also in that hearing, they had to provide all of their servers have to be alcohol server training certified, which they have provided that to me also. I did speak with Brandon, and he did let me know that they have had a bit of turnover with staff, as so many other people are having right now. So they have provided to me what they do have for their trainings for their current staff. And then
Are you allowed to tell us what the violations were?
There, it's in the packet.
it's in the packet, it's in the memo. I didn't provide the actual citations in the packet, but the memo does describe the citations. It was disorderly conduct, people being served after hours, people being disorderly and drunk on the premises that had to be escorted, which is loitering, which is, you can be charged with trespassing for that. Were the majority of the violations. Okay. And then the other part of it is the new manager registration, which also came to the liquor licensing authority because that investigation that's conducted by our police department if it does not reveal any information that be reasonably form the basis of a determination that the proposed manager is not qualified to hold the position. So his background check is provided in the packet, so you can see it. Now he hasn't had anything on his record since 2008, but they were brought up. They were part of that memo again and in the packet. So that is for liquor licensing authority to determine if he is a sound character to be able to be the registered manager for Tin Cup. So that's up to you. I did let Tin Cup know, and I see that they're on the call, that if they wanted to come represent themselves and speak to the board, that they certainly could do that.
Let's let them speak. They would like to speak. Okay, Tin Cup, you can unmute yourself now.
Hello, this is Matt Erico. I'm the new manager at the Tin Cup.
Okay, we can hear you. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just wanted to add that there was some issues with the business prior to me coming on as a manager. I do understand that there is some some marks on my background that are probably up for consideration. I had a little checkered teenage years and into my early 20s. Since that time, I have become a member of the community here. Had several businesses work actively with NSCD. Did have a brush up DUI in 2008, so that is the most recent incident. You know, I have really focused on, since I've been here at the Tin Cup, managing compliance and compliance with the license, because that was certainly an issue. There was a number of individuals that, you know, we identified as kind of troublesome, and also some of the employees that kind of weren't complying with the laws of the license. So those folks are no longer here. And I feel pretty confident that we'll be able to move forward without continual issues.
It's good to hear.
That's what we like to hear.
Matt, how long have you been the manager there?
I've been here for 8 months now, Katie.
So just about the time that you didn't have any more incidents at the Tin Cup Tavern?
Yes, ma'am.
And I know Matt personally, he's a pretty good guy. I mean, I've worked with him, I know.
Pretty good.
Well, I mean, we all got our.
Sorry, Matt.
We all already got our things, but he's reasonable and he speaks well and he cares about his businesses. I've known him from his other businesses. He cares how he performs and how he looks and what he wants to accomplish. So I think overall he's a great guy.
So no incidences since you've taken over, Matt, is that right?
I
That's
think
correct.
you and
Well, that math doesn't work.
So I'm having a hard time hearing you if you're asking any questions.
He said he's been 8 months when there was.
Well, I just
incident in
asked,
December.
since you've been the manager there, have there been any incidents that the police were involved with?
Not necessarily that the police were involved, but there was one or two where, you know, somebody showed up that was intoxicated, that, you know, didn't want to leave, but they hadn't been anybody that we'd served or anything like that. Where any incidents is probably because I notified the police.
Okay.
Any more questions, motions?
I think the clean record since January shows good. And if something happens, I believe there's repercussions right away, right? Did I read that? For a year or something?
Well, and one of the things too, that we do have a bar crawl kind of thing that happens with locals. They start when they're parking, they get on a bus, they come down to Fraser, they're already intoxicated. They might be outside your establishment and then you gotta kick them off the property. And that's when the cops get involved. So there's some.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Insinuating stances that
Some
happen.
stuff you don't have control over. How does this compare with other bars and restaurants in town? I mean,
Katie, you
I
wanna-
assume y'all have other incidents.
Would you like to speak to that, Glenn?
Glenn Trainer, Chief of Police. When we were having incidents at the Tin Cup, they were far in excess of probably every other liquor establishment put together in Fraser or Winter Park. In the last 6 months, our relationship with the staff and everything has just dramatically improved. And so, you know, I can't tell you how much better it is than what it was last fall.
Excellent.
So,
And I know they had a lot of staffing problems.
Good.
I helped them.
Appreciate your feedback.
So how much of it has to do with the location being in the sort of strip mall, and does that contribute to some of the issues with people loitering? And
No,
Not really.
because we wouldn't get after somebody who was outside the bar. These were issues that were bar related and over service related, and really a failure of staff to manage the establishment.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Chief.
I have a question for Tin Cup also regarding the food truck. Or I don't know, I've never seen it open. We have to have food, correct? To have a liquor license or no?
So they have a tavern license,
Okay.
which is different. And they are only required to have, they can have a frozen pizza in the freezer and that's adequate.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Good question. Okay, somebody want to make a motion? Please, or question? That we have to approve the
I'd like
license,
to
the
make a
license
motion to
and
approve
manager.
the Tin Cup liquor license renewal and change of manager.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Great, keep up the good work over there.
yeah,
Yeah.
good job.
Thank you.
Good work.
And Katie, the food truck is open now. It should be open the remainder of the summer. If you want to come try it out, he's doing a great job.
I'd love to.
Need some
I love that place, yeah.
What are they serving?
barbecue.
Smoke.
Barbecue.
Oh,
it's smoked.
no more corn dogs, huh?
Really good brisket there.
There,
Corn
Amber.
dogs is behind.
Brisket
Amber.
is. yeah.
Okay,
Amber.
can I have a motion to close the liquor license authority and resume the town board, please?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
We'll give that one to Brian.
Now is open forum. So this is when the public can address the board. You have 3 minutes. The only public I see is related to
The board.
Colleen. Do you want to add anything? You have 3 minutes. Kai,
Kai's not here anymore. He's in bed.
Okay.
No.
perfect. Next is updates. Anybody have any updates?
So what's up with PAC and the market? For the plan for the.
That's not
proposal?
PAC.
Farmers market.
Not
That's-
PAC, not
EDAC.
Public Art, EDAC.
They,
I mean, I can give
Yeah.
a little update.
Mhm.
I met with Barry. I met with Sarah. We've kind of been working to figure out primarily the date right now. I mean, we're sort of split between a Friday and a Sunday date for or day for the market.
Mhm.
But we've got the place. We've been talking about the parking. I think that's manageable. And Rebecca's been working and getting the vendors lined up. So we're making some progress, but I don't think we're quite there. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we should have something more definitive.
Thank you for working on that.
is there any way, because we are almost into July now, to speed that process up? Like pick a date? There's lots of vendors out there and trying to please all of the vendors is never gonna work.
Yeah, well, I think that I'm gonna have to
'Cause-
rely
'cause
on
you're-
Barry and
you-
Rebecca to,
Right, we need to,
yeah,
they need to be more proactive in picking a date. So,
we'll pick
think I
one.
got a
I mean,
survey.
does the board have any input and preference? And we thought Friday afternoons,
I like Sunday.
Sunday
Keep going,
from
keep
10 to
people in
2 may
town a little
work
longer.
better just because if we did it from 10 to 2, it doesn't conflict with very many other events. And it would be done before I think the bulk of the traffic gets really bad on Sunday, but it seems to be the way we're leaning.
Sunday,
Sunday from 10 to 2, so start mid-morning and wrap up.
Catch everybody leaving town.
right? Can we,
Do it.
Would
you like direction from the board?
I'd like to follow back up with Rebecca and Barry. She was clearing all the different vendors and
Like I said, you're not gonna make everybody happy.
no, we're not.
So.
But we
I
need to
think you
make
guys
sure we
really-
have,
You
at
need,
least,
you need to market to people too.
right,
Because we're trying to get people to come up here and the sooner they know about it, the better.
right.
So
But we need to have our vendors lined up. We need to
I
at
don't
least
think
have
you're gonna have
one
any-
fruit and vegetable
I
vendor.
don't
I
think you're
mean,
gonna have any
Kind of like
problems with it.
Friday, just so people come down to Fraser and are like, hey, this place is great. Let's come drink here later. Let's go out to lunch here later. Instead of Sunday where they're like,
Oh
oh,
my
we
gosh,
should have known
this is
Fraser
why-
was here
this is-
2 days
this is
ago.
why-
Right.
Yeah, on Sundays, people are
That's why you
hightailing
give
it out.
It
They want to get the traffic.
it starts like at 11 o'clock.
Well, I've been
when it
watching the
gets-
emails between, and if the rate it's going, it'll be September before. we
Winter
have-
market,
Before we have,
Christmas market.
before we have the farmer's market, it's gonna be too late. Because marketing, you have to have time to market.
understood.
Anyhow,
Okay,
I'm-
thanks to
I-
all the
I-
folks that are working on it.
Yeah, I'm indifferent if it's on Friday or Sunday, but the date needs to be chosen sooner than later. Because vendors also are planning their summer
Right.
as
We'll,
well.
we'll get
Okay.
on that, Mayor.
Any other updates?
I'd just say a
I
quick,
What about,
quick shout out to CDOT for doing some overlay on 40 and
Yeah.
fixing potholes. Happy to see that.
Yeah.
It sounded like they're doing the big one on the top.
Yeah, it does sound like that. Yeah.
They
Okay.
have those
They
more
did.
outside the rec center, so that's great. It only needs half your problem.
I didn't notice to get the one right here in Fraser by our turn in. I don't know. That one was pretty wicked. I didn't
That was
notice.
town.
No, it's a highway 40. I see that. Anyway. Yeah, no, that was great. Thank God, because I still know people that are losing their tires.
I just been, I think the town for the.
Oh, good. Well, thank you to the town for filling it.
Okay, any other updates?
I'd also just
Is
like to
there,
say
is
it's
there
3
an
to 3.
update on the
before the
assistant
third
clerk?
period starts.
So if the score is 3-3 was one of the updates, and then any updates on the.
My update can wait for 2 weeks.
So we did interviews for the deputy clerk and we have made an offer. And she has accepted the offer. So we're now in the process of moving through the conditions on an offer letter and hope to get her in here probably the 19th of July. Yep.
Does she live here?
So she does not currently live here. She was actually a clerk in the state of Colorado for several years and moved to Texas for a brief period of time. I believe might have been family related and had recently quit her job and was looking for one to come back to Colorado and be a clerk.
Is it Lou?
I took Lou's job. She
I know, it
back.
sounds like Lou's coming back. I think he's from Texas for family. I mean, no.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we're very excited. She'll be a great fit for the town.
Perfect.
Okay, speak, or you're gonna get.
Well, I was waiting for
Quick.
anyone else. I know this isn't the time, but I guess I'd like a update on negotiations and our litigation. This is not the time. I
But
know
I'll
that.
briefly, without divulging anything, nothing has changed. We're still waiting for a document from Clark that's a month overdue. And that document has to do with the Metro District Service Plan Amendment.
Can I ask about the, what is it? The detention pond or whatever the pond that you started digging and looks like it stopped? Did he get a permit to, or he got a permit to start that, right?
He has a permit, he has a grading permit.
A grading permit.
He's taking topsoil there and he's relocating his property.
Okay, any other updates?
I'll move to adjourn.
Up,
He said he would wait 2 weeks.
I'll wait 2 weeks.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Right.
Go
Opposed?
ahead.
3 to 3?